I was meeting with a parent this week and I heard a story that was all too familiar, and it might be familiar to some of you as well. She's now a parent of a third grader. When her child was in first grade, she brought her concerns to the teacher because the child was not learning to read very well. And the teacher said, "It's too early. We can't identify anything yet." When he was in second grade, she brought her concerns to the teacher, different teacher now in second grade. And the teacher said, "No, he's going to grow out of it. He's just a boy. Give him time." Well, now in third grade, the teacher's saying, "Yeah, I think you're probably right. You need to go have him evaluated." So I know that these teachers were very well meaning in their feedback to this parent. But when I hear that, people were told, your child will grow out of it. They're just a late bloomer. They're too young. When I hear those phrases, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me because I know how important early diagnosis and early intervention are for kids with dyslexia and reading disabilities. And I just hate to hear when it's been put off unnecessarily. Early intervention is super important. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. Reason number one, early intervention is just more efficient. Research shows that by the time kids are in third grade, they're going to need about double the amount of hours of intervention that they would have needed if they had just started when they were younger in kindergarten or first grade. So your child's going to have to spend less time working on remediation if we can start them earlier. The second reason is it's just more effective. It works better the younger that they are. This has a lot to do with the plasticity of the brain. We're just more able to learn and absorb things with language the younger that it starts. I got to listen to a really amazing neuroscientist at a recent International Dyslexia Association conference. His name is Stanislaus Dehaene, and he has a lot of books out there that you could check out. But he was explaining that no person is born with a brain wired to read. We are born wired to speak and to learn language, but reading is something that every single person has to be taught. It's just not something that comes naturally. And if we are not taught early on, those areas of the brain that we are specializing to read, they're going to get crowded out and specialized for other tasks instead of reading. So the earlier we start with intervention, the more effective we could be. Yes, an illiterate adult can learn to read, but it's just much, much harder. And a lot of that has to do with the plasticity of the brain. The third reason early intervention is important is because it minimizes the secondary impacts of dyslexia. So there are a lot of things that are associated with dyslexia. Dyslexia doesn't cause them, but it's kind of a domino effect. For example, anxiety, low self-confidence. If you're struggling to learn to read and it's something you're having to do at school every day, it can trigger a lot of anxiety and stress for students. It can result in lowered self-confidence. It also can impact a student's reading comprehension. If they're not reading well when they're younger, they're not going to read that much. If they're not reading that much, they're not going to build up their vocabulary, their background knowledge, their knowledge of how stories normally work. So their ability to comprehend is going to kind of decrease compared to their peers who are reading a lot and getting all of those benefits of wide reading. So don't hesitate to get your child tested if you have concerns. I do believe that early intervention and early diagnosis are so important. I think that in general, schools have gotten better about early intervention as part of that response to instruction or response to intervention process, RTI. But a lot of times I still hear that hesitation to have a child tested or diagnosed. I do think that intervention is important, but diagnosis is important too. The earlier you can find out your child has dyslexia, the more effective you can be in advocating for them to be getting dyslexia-specific services during that intervention time at school.